dressed as women, making fun of women, demeaning women, pretending to be women. And why am I on the way to being legally required to call that sick freak ma'am? I'll never do it. I'll never do it. I'm happy to eat your stinking prison food because I'm never gonna call a dude in a dress ma'am. And our kids shouldn't be taught that crap.
I was talking about the presidential election. I'm just trying to get the answer on that. But where do you see that mandate coming from?
Where's that that mandate is coming from Satan, right? I mean, I don't know. Do you have any spiritual? It doesn't matter really if you do, right?
Doesn't matter. I'm just a guy with a mic right now.
That mandate's coming from Satan. Satan is the author of confusion.
Now, anybody who knows me and follows me knows that I've never, ever been one to shy away from saying that Republicans are incredibly unintelligent. And if they are intelligent, they're very misinformed. And if not that, then they just make dumb decisions on purpose.
I was in the school drop-off this morning, and I was standing next to this lady. And on my bag, I have things that, I mean, would clearly indicate that I voted differently than the majority of the country did. And she's just looking at me, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, here we go. But she looks at me, and I can tell she wants to say something, and I'm trying to brace myself for whatever it is she's gonna say, and I'm like trying to distract myself, talking to my kids, whatever. And she goes, I didn't know that Donald Trump wanted to take away the Affordable Care Act. I thought he was just gonna get rid of Obamacare, and I was all for that. And I paused because I wasn't sure if she was joking or not. And then I say, those are the same thing. They're one and the same. And she goes, well, I didn't know that. And now I don't know if I'm going to have insurance for my kids or for myself.
So why are these economists so opposed to Trump's plan? Because the economic effects would be pretty terrible. This is a study done by Bloomberg Economics. And they found that Harris's plan did not have much change in either the GDP or inflation, which in a sense is a good thing at this point. But look at what Trump's plan would do. Trump's plan would cut the GDP by 8.9%. And let me put that in perspective for you. This is roughly twice the amount that the GDP went down during the financial crisis. Wow. So we would be looking at something between a recession and a depression. And interestingly, as I'm sure people know because we've talked about this many times, the tariffs would cause certainly a part of this. But the biggest cause, actually, of this drop are the mass deportations that Trump is talking about.
And it should come as no surprise to anybody that Donald Trump, the man who I love the poorly educated, is moving to defund not only public schools, but universities, libraries, museums, and, pretty much any other institution that can provide people with information, because we're in an idiocracy now. You don't want people with knowledge. You don't want people able to discern the good decision from the bad decision. I mean, what else do you want me to say? First and foremost, doing what I do and doing what we do. Trump supporters are always lobbing the worst insults at me, things I can't say on this video or else it'll get demonetized, but this is nothing new. Their entire movement is ran off bigotry and ignorance, but we're not supposed to call them stupid. We're not supposed to call them out for their ridiculousness, right? I mean, after everything that Donald Trump has done over the last decade, the whole last 10 years of politics in this country has been all about Donald Trump. And these people still voted for him, despite the fact that he ran the worst campaign anybody's ever seen. And after the election, there were a whole bunch of Google search results like, what's a tariff? What's going to be inside of Trump's deportation plans? How is it? You couldn't look this up beforehand.
It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it. People who advise me politically always tell me that's dangerous, and I tell them, in that case, it's not worth my running. That's why I'm doing this, to get rid of that. Medicare and Medicaid are of the same sort and need to be pulled up.
Not taking anyone off of what they paid into so far, but there is some waste, abuse, and fraud in Medicare that we can take those numbers back and add to our general coffers and our treasury. And on the front end on Social Security, I think there's a way when people are living longer, they're retiring later, that on the front end, we can move that retirement age back a little bit.
We got to bring the Democrats in and talk about Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. There's hundreds of billions of dollars to be saved, and we know how to do it. We just have to have the stomach to actually take those challenges on.
And the founders warned us, you've got to keep these things under constraint.
This is an existential threat? Is it your view this is an
absolutely.
To our American way of life?
Absolutely, yeah. Our whole form of government.
Nothing is sacrosanct. Nothing. They're going to put everything on the table.
That's what they told lawmakers. Everything is on the table, and that includes Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
John Thune, who is the Senate incoming Republican leader, who also met with Elon Musk this morning, told me that perhaps mandatory programs are areas that they're looking to make cuts in, like Social Security, for example.
Now that Republicans are set to control our lives for at least the next 2 years, well, they've gone all in on reviving one of their favorite lines of attack: eliminating Social Security and other social benefit programs under the guise of fiscal conservatism. But as Representative Katie Porter points out,
this is how much Social Security adds to our national deficit. Zero. Nothing. Social Security is not debt financed. In fact, by law, you cannot use debt spending to fund Social Security. And in fact, we currently have over $2.9 trillion surplus. So, do we need to think about how to make Social Security as strong and as viable for future generations as we can? Absolutely. But it is nuts to try to blame Social Security and blame working Americans who pay for the program and suggest that Social Security is in any way responsible for the national debt.
It doesn't get much simpler than that. Social Security funds itself through people like us paying into it. It has nothing to do with the debt our country takes on to fund other programs. It has everything to do with people like this perceiving any money spent by the government to benefit the greater public as undeserved entitlements that only a small club of people should be able to have access to.
One last question.
Go ahead.
Entitlements ever be on your plate?
At some point they will be, and at the right time we will take a look at that. You know, that's actually the easiest of all things if you look, because it's such a big percentage. If you're willing to do some of
If you don't cut something in entitlements, you'll never really deal with the debt.
We'll be cutting, but we're also going to have growth like you've never had before.
You changed your outlook on how to handle entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Mr. President. It seems like something has to be done, or else we're going to be stuck at 120% of debt to GDP forever.
So first of all, there is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting.
The current Republican Study Committee budget, representing 80% of House Republicans, has proposed cutting $1.5 trillion of Social Security benefits over the next 10 years. It would reduce the benefit formula and raise the retirement age to 69, which would especially hurt low-income retirees. But let's say that Social Security benefit cuts really are off the table. If cuts are truly off the table, then that leaves only one other option to prevent insolvency: raise revenue. There is no third option. And that means it's time to get to work identifying smart, fair ways to raise revenue, fund the Social Security Trust Fund, and preserve and protect benefits. Fortunately, there are solutions that would both extend Social Security solvency indefinitely with zero benefit cuts and make our tax system fairer, like my Medicare and Social Security Fair Share Act. Right now, the cap on Social Security contributions means that if you're a CEO making $10 million a year, you only pay into Social Security for the first week of your paycheck. A school teacher or a nurse, however, will pay into the program with every single paycheck. That just isn't fair. My Medicare and Social Security Fair Share Act would fix that by requiring contributions to Social Security on all wages above $400,000. Further, people living off of non-wage income make no Social Security contributions. That's not fair either, and my bill would also fix that. Those making more than $400,000 in investment income would contribute just like those who are working. These reforms raise enough revenue to make Social Security, and by the way, Medicare too, solvent indefinitely as far as the
There are solutions to the problems that currently exist with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other social programs, but they require elected officials who are motivated to fix them. The reality is that Republicans have no motivation to solve these problems because, Well, their ultimate goal is to phase out and eventually eliminate these institutions altogether. That's why they keep pushing the same privatization schemes over and over. They're not looking to preserve these programs. They're looking to dismantle them entirely.